Hey everybody, welcome back to Tea Talk Tuesday. It's Marcy Baranich. I'm excited to be here again for another edition of Tea Talk Tuesday. And today we are going to be talking about an herb that is well known in the detoxification arena, and it's burdock root. In fact, the majority of our discussion is going to be around the detox process that takes place in our bodies. And then we'll recap at the end with a little bit of how burdock root can help with that process and then how we can incorporate it. So first off, I'm going to start by saying this. So when we think of burdock root, Sipology only has 2 teas with burdock root in it. So you're maybe wondering why I'm even talking about it. But when you hear about our body's detoxification process, it'll make more sense and you'll understand why it's not something super common in all of the teas we drink, right? Because it does in fact serve a very specific purpose. So for today's sake, we're going to focus in on the detoxification properties of burdock root and its specific purpose, but more specifically, our liver's role in the detoxification process. So first and foremost, it's important to understand that for optimal health, we have to have a healthy detoxification system, because if we don't, then our body cannot filter out all of the toxins and waste that we are putting into it all day long. And if we can't filter it out, eventually it's going to overcome and things are just not going to be real good. So the detoxification process isn't always something commonly discussed in Western medicine, but among herbalists and holistic practitioners, it is something that they focus on tremendously because of its impact on our overall internal systems and the highway that interconnects all of the organs in our bodies. Now, there's many common warning signs that can indicate if someone's detoxification system is overburdened, right? Meaning there's so much waste in there and we're starting to struggle because the waste and the toxins have built up so much. And just to name a few of them, that's things like dull skin tone or skin problems, things like acne, rashes, eczema, sensitive skin issues, dark circles under your eyes, chronic pain, arthritis, maybe migraines even, poor digestion, especially of fats. So that also things like high cholesterol, hypertension, constipation, fatigue, sluggishness, I can never say that word. And the list just really goes on. So those symptoms are also culprits of a lot of other things. So it's often hard to determine what's going on. And quite frankly, everything inside of us is connected, right? It's one big highway system. But anyways, in our body's detoxification process, our liver is the star of the show, right? It works in conjunction with our gallbladder, our kidneys, our lymphatic system, our colon, as well as our skin. And it's interconnected with all of these organs where that detoxification process takes place. Now, each of those organs, including the liver, has a very different role in the detoxification process, and they all filter out different toxins along the way. But your liver is like the gatekeeper. Now, your liver is constantly filtering out toxins all day long from your blood that's coming from your gastrointestinal, your GI tract, before letting it enter the rest of the body. So what happens is later on, it has to filter out the old blood to clean it of any metabolic waste. And the filtered waste and the toxins are then turned into bile in your liver. Then they're stored in the gallbladder, and then they're released into our digestive tracts. And that's all happening as we start to put the next meal into our digestive system. So, or into our intestines, so to speak. So some of the compounds in the bile are reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, and then they wait to be eliminated in our guts, which we've talked a lot about guts, but most of it's going to exit our body through our feces. So that's sort of what happens in that process with our liver. Now, in addition to acting as the gatekeeper for all of that waste, our liver also metabolizes various compounds, things like sugar, vitamin D, iron, cholesterol, fats, among other things. And it's going to shuffle things to and from storage in our bodies. It's going to change things from inactive to active. It's going to create things and break them down, right? So our liver is very, very busy, and it has a vital role in a lot of the things that are taking place inside of our bodies as we are consuming foods and exposing ourselves to toxins in our environment throughout our day. Now, bitter and sour tasting herbs can stimulate our liver to clean our blood more efficiently, to help clean out the toxins and the waste from our bloodstreams. And it can help our liver to produce and excrete more bile, which is where a lot of that waste gets processed and excreted from our bodies, right, through the bile. So there's other detox herbs that improve lymph flow. There's laxatives that can help keep our biles moving. All these things work together to help our bodies, detoxification channels stay open and help things keep moving through them, which means ultimately we have less toxins traveling through our bloodstream in our bodies. So you may have heard of things called liver movers. Liver movers. These are herbs that encourage bile production and as well as bile excretion. So they help our liver to detox waste from our bodies. Now, during this process, what happens is your liver activity picks up. And so you may experience something called a healing crisis, where your symptoms worsen for a couple of days. So those skin problems you're having, maybe headaches, fatigue, sluggishness, they might get worse for a couple days before they start to get better. And that's because as you introduce the liver movers, or the herbs that help get things moving again with your liver's going to start to release more toxins into your bloodstream, and your body's response is to excrete those toxins, right? But part of that process is going through those symptoms that we experience, right? Because of all of that toxic load that we have in our system. And that can last for a day or two before things start to sort of turn around and you start to feel better. So that's why you'll often hear people say when they go through a detox program, which we'll talk about in a second, that the first few days are always rough and they have headaches and they don't feel good. And it's your body's natural response to starting to clean out that toxic waste from your system. So now that we understand the detoxification process that takes place in our bodies, let's circle back to burdock root, which is where we started. So where and how does that play a role, right? Well, burdock is actually a weed that grows these huge rhubarb-like leaves, and they eventually give way to tall thistle-like blooms, and they get those brown burrs on them, and that typically happens like in the second year of that weed growing. So burdock has a mildly bitter, slightly sweet root. And that root encourages liver and lymph detoxification, which is why it is so popular in detoxification supplements, so to speak. It is quite safe to use. It's known for its general detox support. It's known for its use in nutrition regimens, for helping with skin issues and digestive issues, even dysbiosis, among other things. So specifically, burdock root has inulin fiber in it, and that helps feed those good bacteria in our gut, which we've talked about our gut health in the past. So there's that word again, gut, right? But in addition to all of that, burdock also is valuable as a lymph moving herb. So it's quite safe in terms of detoxification and lymph herbs. It can be valuable thus to add burdock root as part of an overall more holistic, gentle detoxification or cleanse that we can do every now and then to help kickstart our liver and make sure things are working the way that we want them to be working, and that it's getting rid of the toxins in our bodies, right? We want to make sure that our detoxification channels are open and ready for business. So you've likely heard of detox programs. They're all the trend right now, right? They're all the craze. And they come in many, many, many different forms. So some are, you take a bunch of things in pill format or tablet format. Some are drinks only. Some are a combination of pills and drinks and maybe a little bit of food. Others might be broth-based with pills or juice-based cleanses or smoothies. There's so many different ways that these programs have popped up over the past 5 to 7 years. And people just hear detox and they're like, oh, great, it's going to work, right? And I'm not saying that they don't, but there is a natural way, a more natural, gentle way to go through that process without all of that stuff. But the down and dirty of any detox program, you guys, is to help restore balance, to reduce and eliminate the amount of toxins that we're putting into our bodies. Because if we reduce the amount of toxins we're introducing to our bodies, our liver's detoxification process doesn't have to work so hard and doesn't become overburdened, right? And that's the idea behind a detoxification program or diet, so to speak. So it helps get our liver back to doing what it's doing best. Do you need a fancy program to do that? No, you don't. But I'm going to say this, if you ever try one, always, always, always talk to your doctor first before you do it. Now, you can absolutely do the more, what I call more natural way of cleansing, so to speak. And it's simple, you guys. All you do, you eat whole foods, mostly plants, which means fruits, vegetables, whole grains, starchy vegetables, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, seeds. Whole foods, mostly plant-based, just real whole foods that you get out of the ground, right? You avoid processed foods, so you avoid sugars, you avoid alcohol. You could even avoid dairy and red meat, at least for a little while, as you're doing this little cleanse for your body. As you are going through the process, in addition to eating whole foods, mostly plant-based, you can include green tea. You can include other teas that help with the detoxification process. So teas that have burdock root in them, which we're going to talk about in just a second, as well as herbs and spices. So you don't have to eliminate food while allowing your body to naturally start detoxing those toxins out of your body. You just have to eat real food, right? Real whole foods. That's what you need to eat. And honestly, eating that way should be your goal all of the time, because if you're eating that way all of the time, then your liver doesn't have to work overtime all the time to start filtering and keep filtering out all of that toxic stuff that we put in our bodies, right? So if you're eating whole food, mostly plant-based most of the time, then it's going to be working at an optimal level because it's not overburdened, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you decide you want to try, a whole foods, mostly plant-based sort of natural cleanse, you're still going to eat 3 meals a day, drink a whole lot of water. But you could certainly work with somebody as you go through that process if you've never done it before. But just remember that you are going to experience that little healing crisis in the beginning, especially if you've been eating a whole lot of processed, industrial, commercialized type foods that come in boxes and packages, and they're laden with oils and sugars and all of that. If you've been eating that way for a long time, you're for sure going to experience some of those symptoms those first few days as you start to introduce whole foods again. That's just part of the process. It really shouldn't last for more than a couple of days. But again, I do suggest working with somebody and letting your doctor know that you're doing it before attempting it. So that's sort of my spiel on detoxing. And now you're probably wondering, so how does this tie back to tea, right? So we talked about burdock root, and if you're going to go through a gentle cleanse, you know, I like to do it every 3 months. I find it's beneficial just to make sure things are moving through those channels the way I want them to, which just means I eat absolutely no added sugars, no sugars outside of fruits, but try to keep to the low sugar fruits during that time. No sweets, no conventional, commercialized, industrialized foods or meats or anything like that. No dairy. Just real whole foods, mostly plants. And I like to do that strictly once every 3 months for 7 days. And as a part of that, you can incorporate burdock root or teas that have burdock root in them that can help with that process that our liver is going through as it detoxes and gets rid of all those toxins out of our system. And you can also incorporate green teas, and we have lots of green tea options for you, including matcha, which you should be incorporating on a normal basis anyways, in my personal opinion. But Sipology has 2 teas specifically that can be beneficial. One is their detox tea, which is part of the Heal Thyself medicinal line of teas. So with this particular tea, it is not something you would incorporate on a daily basis or a weekly basis, used in moderation. Like I said, great for that once every 3 months, gentle whole food plant-based cleanse that we can do. They also have a tea in their herbal line called Immunity Boost. Where is it? Immunity Booster. I have talked about this one before. It was out of stock for a really long time, and I'm excited to tell you it's back in stock. But the Immunity Booster tea, it's an herbal tea, and I used to incorporate this almost on the daily as part of my nighttime wind down routine before bed because it's caffeine free, it's herbal. It has licorice, cinnamon, burdock root, ginger, dandelion root, fennel, aniseed, juniper berries, coriander, black pepper, parsley, sage, cloves, and turmeric. A great combination of some nice gut healing, gut relief type ingredients in there. Just a great herbal tea to include. And it has that burdock in it. So just another great option that you can incorporate into, and that one you can incorporate into your typical weekly wind down routine, right? Whereas the Heal Thyself one, I would use more as part of a gentle holistic cleansing that you're doing. Now you can't just like buy the Heal Thyself detox tea and drink it twice a day and then keep eating junk the whole time, because it's just going to defeat the purpose. So keep that in mind. So that is my Tea Talk Tuesday on our liver's detoxification process and how something like burdock root can help with our detoxification process and get things moving and keeping those channels open for our bodies. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know.